Hi, my name is Kristen McGee and I'm here with Health.com. I want to show you how to get into some of those intimidating yoga poses that you might think are very difficult, but in fact, you can do them. And I want to show you all the steps that you can build up to get into these poses, or just get over that mental block and fear of even trying these poses, because they're really fun. And yoga is a lifelong process, so no matter what, as long as you're going for it and having fun, that's all that matters. So let's get started. The first one I want to show you is splits. Now, splits seems really intimidating because a lot of people say, oh, I don't have the flexibility in my hamstrings. But splits is a combination of the flexibility, the hamstring of the front leg, and the quadricep hip flexor of the back leg. So at first, I always like to show people, just get into a nice crescent lunge or low lunge stretch and really work on opening up the front of the hip flexor. So you want to stay here and breathe, curl your tailbone under, lift the front of the hip rims, and work on opening the psoas and the quad and the hip flexor of that back thigh. So you take 5 to 10 breaths here, really opening up that thigh. And then you can work the hamstring of the front leg by coming back here, flexing the foot, and really breathing into the back of the hamstring. Stay 5 to 10 breaths, soften the shoulders, and use that deep breath to really start to open up those tight spaces in our thighs, right? And then we're gonna grab some blocks. And I'll show you what's so great about the blocks and props is that they really give us a nice aid for trickier poses. So you can take your blocks and you can start with them really at a high level. Tuck your back toes under. You're still in this lunge-like position and you're working the front of that back thigh open. And then you can start to slide that front foot forward. So here I am keeping my blocks by my hips because you want to keep the hips forward facing, the shoulders down and back, and really extend that back leg, stretch that leg straight, and then let it go, and you'll go deeper into the pose. So again, a lot of it is the opening in the front of that back leg. And then you can start to lower your blocks, next level down, or maybe the next level down, and eventually you'll come all the way down into the pose and breathe really deeply. Now, the other thing you can do with the blocks is take a block under that front thigh. So here, I can rest my hamstring on the block of that thigh here and work on my splits and stay balanced here and breathe. So it's a really fun pose to start to work on. It's great for opening up the entire body. And again, you have those options with the blocks. So have fun with the splits. The next pose I want to show you is headstand. Headstand is one of those really intimidating poses for people, but in fact, it's more of almost an arm balance. You want to have strength in your upper body. So I have everyone practice a pose called dolphin. You interlace your hands, make a fist, and press the forearms down into the floor. Tuck your toes under and come into a downward dog on your forearms. Use your abdominals, keep them nice and held, shoulders down away from the ears, and then roll forward towards a forearm plank, and then push back towards your dog. Inhale forward, exhale back. Inhale forward, exhale back, inhale forward, exhale back, 2 more, inhale forward, exhale back, inhale forward, exhale back. And then just rest for a second on your hips, on your heels. So that's dolphin pose. I call them little yogi push-ups. And I used to do 15 to 20 every day as I was building up arm strength and upper body strength, because you don't really want all the weight to be on your head and neck anyways. You really want to make that strong base of your arms. So if you take your arms up above you like this and imagine pressing the forearms up to the ceiling, that's one way to really get an idea of where you want the weight to be in headstand. Now, a lot of times people ask me, where should I put my head? That's a great question. So take your thumb, put it between your eyebrow, and stretch your hand. Wherever your index finger touches is the top of your head, the crown of your head. And that's the spot that you want on the floor. So we'll make that same position, forearms down. I like to always, you don't want your hands flat against your head. You almost want to keep a little tennis ball between the palms and really press the wrists so your head comes between the wrists. I'm going to press my hands down, top of my head in between my wrists, and lift into my dog. Again, pushing really firmly into my arms. You have to walk your feet in as close as you can, and then bring your knees into your armpits like a little egg. Once you create this little egg shape, you can start to lift your legs all the way up into your headstand and find your balance. But really, I'm mostly pressing into my elbows, not onto the top of my head. Then you have to use your abdominals to slowly control it as you come down. So the biggest fear for people is getting their hips forward enough over their shoulders in order to take their legs up. So definitely feel free to practice this at home against a wall. And when you start to come into that egg shape, find the back of your hips against the wall and then walk your feet up the wall. And then you'll be able to eventually do a headstand by lifting both legs straight, using the abdominals. Lifting up and lowering down. So headstand is actually one of my personal favorites, and once you get the hang of it, you'll love it. Now crow. Crow is similar to that little egg shape that I just showed you in headstand. You really want to suck your knees up into your armpits. I often tell people to stand on a block because the secret to crow is getting your knees high enough into your armpits. And a lot of times people don't have that hip opening or flexibility. So if I get up on a block, my knees come right into my armpits a lot easier. And it's like a ball in a mitt. So you're forming a baseball with your knees and the armpit is the mitt. So shove that ball right into the mitt and it makes a perfect fit. So if my knees rest in my armpits and I plant my hands down, all I have to do is work on lifting my feet and balancing in my crow. So I'm really just pressing my knees right up into my armpits and finding my crow pose. Now, if you don't need the block, you can do the same thing here. Bend your knees. Just try and get your knees up really high, because once your knees are here on your elbows, it's so much harder to balance. You really want the knee to fit in the armpit for your crow. Now, I'll also tell people you want to make sure your hips are open. I'll tell them to put a crash pad or a yoga blanket in front of them in case they feel nervous about tipping forward. So you've got your splits, your headstand, your crow pose. Now I want to show you a back bend. Back bends, again, are another pose that really are uplifting. They're antidepressants, they feel amazing. But for some people, if you have back issues, definitely check with your doctor first. Make sure it's okay for you to do this. But what we'll work on is finding the strength in the lower body, right? So again, I'll tell people, take a block, squeeze it between your inner thighs, really find your midline, hug the inner thighs around the block, press the feet firmly into the floor. Now your hands come back by your shoulders, fingertips face forward, and first, you just want to prop the top of the head on the mat. Narrow your elbows in, squeeze the block, and then work on pressing yourself up. So the toes don't turn out, the toes stay forward facing, and you get that nice back bend. Narrow your elbows and slowly lower down. Here's another one where you could use blocks. So for my folks with wrist issues or who have trouble getting up higher, you can put your hands on the blocks and notice how much more lift I get. You can also push the blocks right up against a wall and you'll be able to come up into your back bend. So anytime you bring the floor up a little higher to you, it makes every pose a lot easier. And the last pose I want to show you is my dancer. So dancer pose, one of my favorite positions, and it's a tough standing balance, but one that everyone can do. I often say get a loop in your strap or get a towel or a belt, anything you can, to put one foot in. So once you have your foot in that strap, you just kind of fling the arm over the shoulder like you're holding a bag. And then you want to take both hands to the strap, try and keep your hips forward facing, and start to lift that back leg up. Now, as I'm keeping my hips forward, I start to walk my hands down the strap closer and closer to my foot until I can come into that full dancer. If you don't have the strap at home, here's another trick. I take my hand, open it this way, and grab the inside of my foot. Oops, I'm losing my balance, sorry. Grab the inside of my foot, and then I flip my arm around and bring the foot up into the dancer. You can let that foot go. So I really encourage you to try these poses at home. I know they seem a little intimidating. Feel free to use the props. take your time, have fun, and for more fitness tips like these, join me at health.com.